Hi, I'm Joe Connolly, along with producer Neil A. Carousso, and we will introduce you to the owner of a cool Brooklyn company that has had to adapt as well, just like all businesses. Matthew Saravay owns Wizard Studios, aptly named. They're a very glitzy, modern, high tech type of events production company. And Matthew, let's just start by asking what's the biggest adaptation and change you've had to make since the pandemic began?
Well, first of all, our industry was ravaged by the effects of the pandemic. We're in the shoulder-to-shoulder business, and we make our money when people gather in mass. So when people had to stop doing that, we had to resize our company to about half the size that we were. But the blessing there is that it gave us an opportunity to reimagine how our company should look when we started to build it back. Because, in small business, you sort of, as your business grows, you don't always have the opportunities to set things up the way you want them to. You just got to kind of adapt as things are growing and add parts sort of in a Frankenstein way as you grow. Um, and for us, this was we came to a full stop, and it gave us an opportunity to assess where we had grown to, and think about what we wanted our business to look like when things started to come back. So we spent a lot of time working on our business to set up standard operating procedures and reorg our org chart so that when we started to bring people back to work, we changed their roles and responsibilities and adapted the setup of our company to more accurately reflect the way we were wanted to do business moving forward.
That's interesting. That's a great description of the opportunity, not the right word, but the opportunity, I guess, that this situation gave us. Who and how did you do this redesign? I assume you were dark for a while, but did you keep some employees on to redesign it with them? Was it with you and your one or two top people? How did you go about redesigning?
It's a great question. So um, we have a 3 level structure in our company. I have a leadership team, and a level of management, and then the folks beneath them. And when it came to having to right size the business on 3/13/20, we I figured I was going to keep my whole leadership team, but it occurred to me I really did need the guys that do the work to stick around. So most of my leadership team I had to let go for a time, and almost all of them are back now, thank goodness. Um, so when we typically do strategic planning in November, and at first, if I think back in April of 2020 was sort of the bottom of the trough for us, and that whole second quarter was like nothing was happening. But really, at that point, we weren't thinking about recasting the company. We were thinking about what we're going to do to survive, and it was all about trying to get funds that were made available through the Paycheck Protection Plan and the EIDL. And then, for us at least, we got a call in early June that Joe Biden was going to start hitting the trail again and getting out in front of people. And so I spent from June through the election producing about 80% of the live events that the now president was performing at. So that was a
Oh,
great.
you had business. You
We
had
did.
business
We
then.
were one of the survivors, and you know, uh, shamefully, I get to say that October of last year was our best single month in 20 years in business, in the middle of a pandemic. And the fourth quarter of last year was our best single quarter in 20 years in business, all due to work we got through the election and the DNC.
So when you redesigned it, It's interesting that, you didn't need as many chiefs as you realized you needed more Indians to figure out how to redesign it. What were a couple of the main ways that you redesigned things?
So it's a bit of a longer story. So when we built our business originally, we found out where we landed in the food chain, right? So when people plan an event, the first thing they do is they find a place that's available on their date that meets their vibe, and then they turn to the person after they book the space and they say, hey, we're going to need somebody for lighting and AV support. Who should we call? And we want those people in the venue to say, call Wizard Studios. So we partnered with venues who became like our sales force, and they would pay for performance, right? So we're preferred or exclusive vendors at places like the Intrepid Sea and Space Museum, Tavern on the Green, the Rainbow Room, the Prince George Ballroom, the Convene Spaces, the top of the World Trade Center, just to name a few. There are about 18 venues around New York that we are either the preferred or exclusive vendors for audiovisual support. And that
You wouldn't want to change that.
Pardon me?
You wouldn't want to change that.
No, sir. Those are great relationships to have, and we get introduced to some awesome customers. The value of that was really terrific, but it grew us to a certain level, and producing roughly around 350 events a year. And I was in a Vistage meeting. I'm a Vistage member that's CEO coaching. And they had a man there speaking about hiring and retaining top talent. And he said, who wants to hire somebody? And I raised my hand and he said, what do you want to hire? I said, I want to hire a salesperson. He said, what do you want the salesperson to do? I said, I want him to bring in $1 million in business next year. And he said a question to me that changed everything. He said, how would you like that? And I'm like, what do you mean? I want it all now. And he said, no. Like, do you want $110,000 sales or $100,000 sales? That gave me pause. And I was like, oh man, I want $100,000 sales. And so he said, great. Does that help you identify better the person you're looking for? Yes, it really does. And so with that in mind, we started going after a different kind of business, not the venue-based business, but going after more agency business that's experiential marketing, if you will. So that's where we get to design and build objects of art, scenery, experiences for people, and then incorporate the audiovisual components that part of our core business.
And before Neil asks questions, just explain agency business meaning what? Big advertising agencies as clients?
Exactly, out-of-home advertising.
Yeah. Okay. Neil?
It's very interesting approach to sales. And so when you made that change, did doors open for you in that you knew exactly who your new audience was going to be?
I wish. We're kind of still figuring it out.
Yeah.
In my perfect world, the brand is my customer. In the real world, the brand is never my customer. We're doing an event currently for Hilton, but there's another company that has hired us to produce the work that we're delivering. And in the agency world, they own the brand relationships, and then they go out and find companies like ours that do the physical work and create the sets and incorporate the lighting and the video and the audio components and bring it all to life. And that's probably 50% of our business now. So,
and then you become a trusted vendor, so you're actually getting referrals from them, correct? From the ad agency?
Yeah, so we have what we'll call master service agreements with some agencies where we are one of a handful of vendors that they go to because it's very regional. To keep budgets down, they don't want to have to pay for travel and long distance trucking. So fortunately, we're in New York, which is the epicenter of most. Everybody wants to do an event in New York. So we get a lot of those good, the higher end pieces of those brand experiences.
Right. So obviously you're joining us on location today. How much right now this fall is in person? What's the ratio between in person and the virtual event space?
So everything is going to still have that virtual component to it. I don't see that ever really going away. And primary reason is that folks have realized they're able to cast a wider net and attract more customers to their affinity group by having that virtual component. So I'm actually at a site visit right now with a nonprofit that's holding their first in-person event since 2019 later this year. And I asked them the question, did you also want to live stream this event? And they said, oh, we're concerned that it might erode some of the attendance if they knew that they could, see the event live streamed. I said, well, we can put a gateway on that and charge admission, just like you're charging admission to come for the catered meal and see it live. And they thought that was a good idea. If you put a gateway on it, then you can still offer people the option of seeing the event in person or seeing it virtually.
Gateway meaning charge.
Yes, sir.
Not interesting. I'm still thinking. Tell us more about this Vistage Insight that you had. Instead of going for more customers, you're going for fewer different customers. Seems brilliant when you boil it down.
Yeah, well, you talk about money for a living, and so for me, this was balancing my portfolio, right? So I knew I wanted to double the size of my company, but I didn't want to double the number of events that we were producing. So I needed to go for customers that would provide me with a higher average ticket. And for us, that meant engaging more with experiential marketing companies.
So how did you do that then? So once you decided to go for the big ticket clients,
yes, sir.
What did you do? Call Verizon on the phone, or how did you go about this?
So we had one or two agency clients who we started to sort of press a little more, if you will, and dig deeper into those relationships. We are fortunate in that we hadn't really done a lot of outbound marketing for our business. We grew generally organically through referral and word of mouth based on all those relationships that we had built with the venues over the years. And on the back of our brand promise, which is that we work to exceed your expectations so that you hire us again. And I had built my company on that same motto of like, I'll do whatever it takes to ensure I keep you as a client, because it costs way more for me to acquire a new customer than it does to make sure that you're going to come back.
Thank you, Matthew of Wizard Studios. What a job you do, and how interesting you've made your business for us.